there's two parts to this video. The first thing I want to do is review what a complex conjugate is, or if you've not heard that before, teach you what a complex conjugate is. The second part, we're going to apply that to simplify numbers that have an I in the denominator. So starting off with the complex conjugate, anytime you have a complex number, which remember could always be written a plus bi, the complex conjugate of that number is a plus negative bi, or you could think a minus bi. So a couple examples of that. If I had 2 plus 3i, the complex conjugate would be 2 minus 3i, just swapping the sign of that I term. Okay, if you had something like 3 minus 4i, the complex conjugate would be 3 plus 4i. Or even if you had something like 2i, the complex conjugate of that would be negative 2i. Now, the main reason we care about complex conjugates is that if you ever have to simplify a number that has I in the denominator, then the trick we can use to make sure we no longer have I in the denominator is to multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate of the bottom. So let me say that again. If you have an I in the denominator of a fraction, we never want that. The way we can fix it is multiplying the top and the bottom of that fraction by the conjugate of the bottom. So let's think, what is the conjugate of 2 minus 4i? That would be 2 plus 4i. So the top and the bottom of this fraction are going to get multiplied by that. In effect, I'm just multiplying by 1. So this is not going to change the number, it's just going to make it written in a more convenient way. Okay, so let's go ahead and FOIL out the top and the bottom. 3 times 2, 3 times 4i, 2i times 2, 2i times 4i, and then on the bottom, 2 times 2, 2 times 4i, negative 4i times 2, and negative 4i times positive 4i. So looking at what we have here, I see some I squareds, so I'm going to immediately exchange those guys for negative 1. And now I can combine my like terms. So on the top I've got 6 minus 8 and 12i plus 4i. On the bottom I've got 4 plus 16 and 8i minus 8i. So as I hoped, I no longer have an I in the denominator. And it turns out that's the reason we do this trick. Okay, so anytime we do this trick of multiplying the top and the bottom by the conjugate of the bottom, you're no longer going to have an I in your denominator, which is kind of our goal here. We don't ever want to end up with an I in the bottom of a fraction. So now we can simplify this a tiny bit more. I can factor a 2 out of the top and the bottom, which means now I can cancel out that 2. And we're done. Another way I could have simplified this, if you're more comfortable with it, I could have broken it apart into 2 fractions, kind of like what we did with difference quotients, and then simplified each of these guys. Okay, and you may find that more comfortable. It's really up to you how you choose to simplify these guys. Either way is right, either way of writing the final answer is correct, just whatever you find more comfortable. Okay, so the big takeaway from this video, if you ever have an I showing up in the denominator of a fraction, multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate of the bottom.